Hey guys, and welcome back to Wind Waker HD. Today we're going to be taking on technically the second dungeon of the game, third if we're going by the Forsaken Fortress. Welcome to the Forbidden Woods, the stereotypical grass dungeon of the game.
So we're going to be getting our rainbow badge now, right?
No, because you bitched about some perfume, and now Erica, who is the boss of this dungeon by the way, does not want you to proceed in life.
So we get our cross-dressing minigame first, then our rainbow badge. I see how this works out.
Jesus Christ, you really threw me off there. I actually didn't know how to carry on that conversation. But this is just continuing Nintendo's, trifecta theming of, forest, mountain, water. I'm stealing one of your points because you've thrown me off my groove right now.
Oh, take it. All points are for everyone. Knowledge is not limited to one man. But yeah, I guess Nintendo's trying to shake it up by having the forest dungeon not first, but technically second, technically third, however you want to go with that. But it's still following the exact same structure, because just because you rearrange the order doesn't excuse the fact that you're still using the same three tropes over and over. And it doesn't get better when you use the exact same iconography for all of them. This is the third dungeon that HFC has commentated over that you see Kokiri emeralds on the door. Like, you're asking for the comparisons and you're asking for people to complain about how similar you're structuring your games.
First two, obviously, were Ocarina of Time 3D. And the Forest Temple, I believe, in Twilight Princess.
Yeah, like, you're trying to draw the worlds together, I get it, but at the same time, you're making your dungeons really similar. And I know that's not their point, but that's what the effect that it gives. Interesting
thing to note here is that we mentioned in Ocarina 3D, or, well, you did, technically, I don't want to take credit away from you, that the Forest Temple had a lot of wind themes to it, and it was originally meant to be wind themed. I see a lot of this here as well, like the fans and using the deck relief extensively. Is that like a running theme for grass dungeons now or something?
I think that's what they're planning on doing, that since the Forest Temple was supposed to be the Wind Temple, it was supposed to be the Wind Sage. I mean, the medallion has a fan essentially on it. Mm-hmm. But with this game, the whole mechanics are around wind-based, even outside of this particular dungeon. And if anything, compared to the Forest Temple and Twilight Princess that had a giant chasm of wind, and the Forest Temple Trial and Ocarina of Time that was fan-based, the dungeon structure, not so much its puzzles, because, you're using the leaf itself to generate wind, but the dungeon itself in this game is probably the least incorporating of wind in its design. Everything is really enclosed. Yeah, there's an open roof, but that's pretty much carried over to all the forest temples so far.
I was actually trying to think of a grass or forest-based dungeon that didn't have an element of wind to it, and I think the closest one I can think of is maybe the first dungeon in Minish Cap, but even there you get the Gust Jar or whatever it was called.
Yeah, you get the Gust Jar in Minish Cap, and you get the Blowy Fan in Spirit Tracks. They're just gonna stick to it. I mean, it's not a bad idea, because, let's face it, if you want to actually do a dungeon based exclusively on plants and nothing else, it's gonna be kind of boring, so at least they're carrying over the theme, and it works. I mean, it's not a huge disconnect between them. At least they're not trying to do water puzzles in fire dungeons. I mean, wind and plants they go together pretty well.
You speak of fire and water. They came quite close in the second fire-themed temple in Skyward Sword, but that was more of a stream than anything. Or maybe I'm just thinking of a river of lava and just confusing the two. But Forbidden Woods, where would you rank it in terms of your favourite dungeons in Wind Waker? Me, I'd probably say if it's not the lowest, it's getting there.
Same, but I think it barely beats out Dragon Roost Cavern. Just because Dragon Roost Cavern to me is really boring, both in its design and in the puzzles and actually playing through it. It could be just because it's the first dungeon that I find it to be boring. But at least with this dungeon, it has really neat ideas. I like how there's a variety of puzzles, and there's a lot of them. Like, pretty much every room is a puzzle, but you're not doing the same thing. A lot of what Dragon Roost was combat-based, like just defeat enemies in this room or find the bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, this dungeon also has find the bomb, but it's mixing it up. Like, you see with this room, we have a labyrinth of vines. There's also puzzles involving finding the nuts in the room and then making sure you get them to the door flower in time before the nuts disintegrate, because they do have sort of this effect on them where they start to get more and more black specks, so eventually they just sort of pop and explode.
Yeah, I can kind of agree with that. You know, it's nice to have puzzles in every room, and it's definitely an engaging dungeon, but the atmosphere, even with those really cool like particle effects floating about in the air, which may or may not be spores, and these were present in the original game as well, it doesn't really reach the heights of the Forest Temple and Ocarina of Time for me. The boss of the dungeon isn't that great. You just get the boomerang, and that's about it. It's not even really used that creatively, in my opinion. Everything that like came before, puzzle-wise, was a lot more interesting, in my opinion.
Yeah, the dungeon is... That's kind of a good way to describe this dungeon as a whole, is that it's pretty on a surface level, but there's not that much depth to it at the end of the day.
I find it a lot easier than Dragon Roost, honestly.
Yeah, I would agree. The big thing you have to realize is that the leaf has two uses. Is that, yeah, you can use it to slow down your descent, but you have to always remember its effect as a fan. The game also has some weird lighting in this area too. It has an open roof, which, like I said, a lot of forest-based dungeons have, but you also notice that a lot of enemies just glow in really weird ways. Like, you have some enemies that have no reason to emit any sort of light, just have the blinding, glowing eyes, and it's like, why? And it's even weirder too, like earlier, you open a chest, and the brightest thing on the fucking screen was a Chew's eyeball.
Well, that's just the HD version of the game, really.
Yeah, as a whole. Also, the dungeon has purple or brown, whatever color you want to call it, water. And that's sort of a reference back to Woodfall. It's not the same in that you can actually touch that water and you will not be damaged. But they're definitely drawing tons of inspiration. There's not all that much that's super new. I mean, even this boss, Mothula, I mean, that's already been done before. We got that shit in Oracle of Seasons.
There's literally no difference between, you know, the one without wings we fought and this guy, other than the fact that he can, like, charge down at you from the sky. It's a fun fight, though. I'll give it that.
I do like how when you slash off one of its wings, it tries so hard to try and stay afloat, but it struggles. It's kind of pathetic.
No, I didn't really get to hear much of the mini-boss theme there. I guess I'll just have to listen to one of those 10-hour videos.
There are so many, and we've spent so long listening to those.
What's the point of these, like, this ring of rupees here? I never really understood this.
Because we're going to be needing a shit ton of rupees just to beat the game.
Good point.
Yeah, the boomerang, it's the same as it's always been. If anything, Twilight Princess improved on this item more than any other item that, like, returned and got improved upon, because in this version, the boomerang will only lock onto, like, predetermined boomerang lockable items. Mm-hmm. Whereas in Twilight Princess, they improved upon that by allowing you to lock onto pretty much any sort of location. So you could have your boomerang go in a complete, like, zigzag W path. But with this, it's anywhere that the boomerang allows you to lock onto.
Now we can actually take out these pea hats, I think?
Yeah, these are like mini pea hats. They can be annoying when you first enter the dungeon, and yeah, they're not as bad as the giant ugly fucking ones that you see on the ocean. These are just there to be annoying and to give you feathers.
Oh god, I fucking hate those things.
It's not any better that the music just makes them even more icky. Like, that's the only word I can use to describe. They are icky. Yeah. I mean, their faces are gross. The music just messes you up because you're on the ocean. You're just trying to chillax and be a sailor boy, and no, not happening.
Nice. It hit like one target. Thanks, Boomerang.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is just because you locked onto something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get hit. To improve your chances, you kind of want to order your lock-ons in a circular path, or at least in a linear path to facilitate the boomerang's movement.
We're gonna need a lot of these friggin' joy pendants as well.
It is a shame that there's a lot of collectibles in this game that, I mean, if you're a completionist, you don't run into the problem like you're just going to get them all regardless. But for someone who hasn't caught on to the fact that you're going to need to collect them, it really sucks when you pass all these collectible items or all these opportunities to grind the collectible items only to find out, oh hey, these were mandatory. You probably should have picked up all of them.
Yeah, and remember, you don't have to fight enemies. You can just use the grappling hook to snag the item right out of them if you don't want to rely on RNG, because they won't always drop the items you're looking for.
Also, these little guys are annoying and adorable. I forget who it was, but someone had a picture where they just got as many as they possibly could on Link, and then took a selfie.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about when the Game Grumps took a selfie in front of Ganondorf.
Dude, the selfie mechanic is genius. It makes no sense in Zelda, but...
There's a room just off to the side here that I actually stupidly went into during one of my many failed recordings. Easy dungeon, not so much when you're trying to get a smooth run for a playthrough. And all that's in that room is a treasure chart, so, you know, it's an optional room, we don't really need to show off.
That can explain pretty much 80% of this game. There's something over here, but it's just a treasure chart.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many in this game, and so many that you don't really need to get. Like, I get that it's supposed to be the, like, plentiful reward that you can get fucking everywhere. They're the heart pieces of Majora's Mask, because, let's face it, you can shake a dude's hand and he'll give you a heart piece in that game.
Yeah, just give a hand in a toilet a piece of, like, toilet paper, and boom, good to go. For added fun, give them Keife or Anju's letter. I just love doing that on, like, a third cycle.
Here, wipe your ass with this proclamation of true love. Have fun, bro.
I actually had to, as per the feedback there, I had to redo this because for whatever reason, it just would not, like, register it on the first go-around. And also, I had to turn gyro off because it was, like, interfering.
Yeah, like I said, the boomerang, they did improve on the fact that you can actually lock onto multiple targets instead of just using it to go in a straight line or to lock onto one target, but they didn't really perfect it. It works like 90% of the time. I'm not going to say that, oh, it's poorly programmed, but it's not perfect, and it makes a mistake every once in a while, but like I said, once you've played the Twilight Princess version and you have the freedom to lock anywhere as like almost as many times as you want, it just suffers from being like that middle step between mechanics. Like, you can play the old version and be like, well, it's the first time, so whatever.
This is probably our toughest challenge yet in terms of, like, regular enemies, just two moblins, and they got really long reach thanks to their spears.
Yeah, but we have the boomerang, and we have the grappling hook, even though it's not going to do damage, but Link is at the point where he has some long-range capabilities. Like, heck, if you want, I'm pretty sure you could even use the leaf to stun them a bit. A lot of Link's items are stun-based as opposed to, like, actual damaging. I guess it's because they wanted you to use, you know, his acrobatic sword attacks.
Just gonna pill for everything here. Man, we really need that wallet upgrade about now.
You are getting it, right? I mean, I'm not gonna have to sit through 5 parts of you grinding rupees.
Dude, you will never have to sit through me grinding for, like, money, Pokemon levels, any of that shit. Okay, we may not be super professional, but I'm not about wasting people's time, okay?
I like my time. See, this is really weird too, is that they try in such a contrived way to incorporate items from the other dungeons, but the problem with the grappling hook is that outside of Dragon Roost and outside of combat, you can't really use it too much in terms of, like, dungeon puzzles.
Yeah.
Like, anytime you see a grappling hook outside of Dragon Roost Cavern, you can just hear the Nintendo executives be like, we should probably put the grappling hook back into this game.
I like how it's used right before the final boss. I think it adds a lot to like the atmosphere and just like the build up to that fight.
Yeah. And another thing too I forgot to mention about the leaf, even though we've been using it for this whole dungeon, is that if you notice when you're in like slow descent mode, he sort of has a symbol underneath him. This is new to the HD version, in that it's a landing guide, because before you sort of just had to eyeball it or maybe get lucky enough that Link would cast a shadow. But now, regardless of how high above the ground you are, you have some sort of targeting for where you'll land, and you won't miss like a platform and fall just before it.
I'm not entirely sure what the symbol's meant to be. It may just be the Deku Leaf, but I also see like an arrow, or maybe even Tingle's head.
It looks exactly like the Tingle symbol when you would use the tuner, so it just, alright, irks me even more, because really, you guys kept the Tingle tuner symbol, but you couldn't keep the Tingle tuner.
I don't think we've actually talked about the warp jars here. You can find them like first in, I believe, Dragon Roost Cavern. They're just basically stuff that will allow you to warp back to places in the dungeon should you die, which won't be happening in this playthrough, obviously.
Yeah, I know Link's Awakening obviously had the mini-boss teleports. They took it the next step further, and instead of teleporting to the room with mini-bosses, you can just go straight to the boss in case you die. Which, you died in Wind Waker? Really?
Happened to me a few times in my initial run. Great lighting in this room.
Look at this onion. Look at this adorable little onion buddy. He's so cute!
No, don't eat him, don't eat him!
Oh, nope. Onion buddy's gone now. Enjoy the rest of your feudal life.
Yeah, it's not just a bud, it's an entire flower. Say hello to Calais Deimos.
This boss is gorgeous. Like, I think it's one... No, I really think this is one of the most beautiful looking bosses in all of Zelda. Just the color that it used, and even in the HD with the lighting, you won't hear me say that a lot about evil bosses trying to destroy Hyrule or the Great Sea, but Calais Deimos is fucking gorgeous.
I was trying to remember the name of the boss, like, a few hours before we started recording, and the first one that came to mind for some reason is Shumagarath.
Well, they both have tentacles, so you're close on that mark. But luckily, at least you didn't try to, name it Baronade, which is probably the closest comparison you're going to get to this boss to any other in the Zelda franchise.
Fairly simple here. You just got to remove the tentacle / vines from above. He will drop down, and then you can attack the core of the plant. If you're quick enough, you can do it in one cycle. Sadly, I wasn't.
It involves linking a lot of your quick spins, but getting the boss into his weakened state multiple times, at least for me, I enjoy it, because look at that lighting effect. When the boss drops, the whole room just gets that blue glow to it, which, previously it had that red glow. But you also need to make sure that you get out of the bulb before it closes up, or you will get damaged. So, you can be greedy and try and sneak in as many hits as you can, but, you run the risk of getting eaten.
What are you trying to say, Vector?
I'm trying to say you got greedy, bro.
Story of my life.
And again, this is another thing that is completely broken by having bombs early, because the little plant inside, his hitbox is active at all times, even when the bulb is closed. So if Link holds a bomb and just sort of walks under the plant and throws it, you can hit the boss inside. And all you have to do is toss 4 bombs. Don't have to cut the vines, don't have to slice the actual boss inside, and he's dead to 4 bombs.
I think I killed him at almost the exact same second that cutscene was about to activate.
Ooh, so greedy actually paid off this time.
Hell yeah, motherfucker.
Look, it even dies in a really cool looking way.
A gorgeous way, would you say?
Fucking gorgeous.
Okay, alright, Makar. I believe the Deku Tree wants a stern word with you, mate.
You were out after dark. You didn't call home. You didn't leave no text message, not even a letter. None of that courtesy.
I know that this is a really stupid thing to ask, but I know the plant grew because of darkness, but don't plants also need a bit of light? I don't see any open roof in this particular arena.
Well, it has bioluminescence, so maybe it's feeding itself. Or maybe, like you said, because it's an evil plant, it actually does it does like anti-photosynthesis. Like it turns darkness, which isn't a particle, into food.
Fuck it. Why not? Let's get out of here.
It's Zelda, bro. It's fucking Zelda. 3 sky ladies decided to flood the entire world because they just couldn't be bothered with fighting off one prick, and we're worried about the mechanics of darkness plants.
Oh, he has a Triforce. We can't interfere with him.
Oh no. Well, you gave it to him as your trick of fate several times, over and over. What? Like, you would think that the 3 goddesses would be beyond the timeline mechanic. Like, there has to be a super god that has vision over all the timelines, which I know there's someone is, but they're just a person. I want to know if there's an omnipotent being as well.
Okay. Here is the second pearl of the game. Man, that run went on a lot longer than I was anticipating, and I just don't like to interrupt people. Sorry, guys.
I don't like the timelines.
Yes, play the song of our people.
Well, see, I had Dragon Roost, so you can totally enjoy this tune. They went really diverse in terms of, like, the musical backgrounds of all the tunes in this game.
Yeah. Like, you had flamenco at Dragon Roost. This, a little bit of Celtic.
A bit. I mean, I'm not gonna say because I'm not too knowledgeable on it. Last thing I need to do is offend people on their musical tastes.
It was a mix of Celtic and country.
Cue chat being filled with Oz in every single Wind Waker speedrun ever.
Yes, forcibly create forests all over the Great Sea. That'll show those dirty humans.
Hey, if media has taught us anything, it's that humanity and industry and economic growth are evil. Pure fucking evil, and should be destroyed by the pure goodness that is nature. The chaotic nature of nature.
Yes, insert Fern Gully here.
Insert singing cloud of smoke.
Voiced by Tim Curry. Okay, guys, that's enough rambling from us for today. We'll see you next time when we begin the hunt for the final pearl. See you then.